hope you've had a really good morning, and it was interesting looking at the agenda to see that there were speakers, obviously from Bhutan, from the Maldives, from the UK, from Greece, I think, as well, and from Serbia. I suppose reflecting what a complex and interesting world we live in today, with so many challenges. Last February, on the theme of this conference, last February, I had a chance to spend a week in the Philippines. Today is the 1-year anniversary of Typhoon Haiyan, Typhoon Yolanda, which destroyed much of some of the islands of the Philippines as it powered over the land exactly 12 months ago today. And I was there in February trying to assist communications, I suppose, between some very desperately poor people on those islands who did not feel part of the reconstruction, and the government and the UN who were leading the reconstruction, and I think probably generally feeling in difficult circumstances that they were doing a very good job. But as ever, when you're in a position of power and responsibility, you don't quite have your finger on every pulse, and it was important for them, I think, to hear about some of the areas, particularly rural areas, that the reconstruction wasn't touching. But I found it a very interesting experience because the Philippines, in many ways, embodies the three great challenges that face our world today, and they are, of course, in many ways reflected in these two events that are taking place here at ICD this weekend. The first being economic, trying to compete in fair rules in a global economy that is increasingly challenging, and in their case in a region that has obviously changed dramatically economically over the last 10, 20 years, but at the same time deal with huge gap in inequality, one of the biggest gaps possibly anywhere in the world, but very representative of the gap that exists in the whole world today. Secondly, the massive challenge of climate change and the impact of our environment on our day-to-day lives. That was shown most dramatically 12 months ago today with the super typhoon, but something that the people of the Philippines experience all the time. So all those environmental challenges, from managing natural resources, which are a huge issue in so many parts of the world, trying to secure the benefits of natural resources for local people rather than for those who would either steal them or try and avoid paying their tax when they profit from them. But also dealing with the natural events that devastate those islands so often, and again are seen in so many parts of the world. And the third area where the Philippines, I think, reflects the challenges that face the whole world is in terms of conflict and its impact on development. The huge island in the south of the Philippines, Mindanao, has seen a conflict now for decades, but thankfully a peace agreement now being signed, which will see them secure a degree of autonomy and allow them a form of self-government that will hopefully bring that conflict to an end and allow the poorest part of the country to start to develop away from the conflict that's existed over those decades. So I found that visit really interesting, and I was reflecting on it coming over to Berlin for these events this weekend, because it seems to me that these are the three big challenges in our world today. Finding a set of economic rules following the financial crash of 2008 that not only ensure fair competition, fair trade, but also try to reduce the inequality that exists still between north and south, between developed and developing, and even inside countries too. Trying to deal with, mitigate the threat of climate change, but also try and manage the environment and our resources in ways that benefit people rather than decimate their lives, and trying to secure more peaceful environment in more parts of the world so that people, so that countries and communities can develop and move on, not just bring an end to violence, but actually see the development that will help them survive and thrive and prosper. And it strikes me that 25 years on from the bringing down of this wall here, which again these conferences are partly celebrating this weekend, that the world really hasn't yet found a system for dealing with these challenges since the end of the Cold War. That we still have institutions that are based, apart from perhaps the European Union, which is maybe, although it has its failings, and there are many, has at least managed to change and adapt in the 1990s in this new environment across Europe, that the international organisations have not yet managed to do so. We still have a UN Security Council that is based on, essentially is responsible for many of these important issues, and is still based on a structure created in the aftermath, not just of the Cold War, but the aftermath of the so-called Second World War. And we still don't have the kind of global framework and leadership that allows us to properly tackle the threat of climate change, properly initiate not just peacekeeping, but peace-building missions around the world that make a real difference. And still yet, we don't have, now 6 years on from that financial crash in the autumn of 2008, a new global economic framework that allows those kind of mistakes in deregulation and international finance that had such a crushing impact, not just in the countries where banks and financial institutions were located, but in places far away from them as well. So I hope that this weekend, if you're discussing the sustainable economies, sustainable technology, sustainable industries, that it's been discussed in that context, because I don't think you can discuss industrial development, economic development, the growth of companies, the strength of individual economies without looking at the global context. They certainly cannot be sustainable in an atmosphere of conflict, and they certainly cannot be sustainable if we continue to use more than the resources of our planet, because they eventually are going to dry up and waste away. So I'm delighted to have the opportunity to be here, and I hope that if we have an interactive discussion, as Mark suggests, we can discuss some of these issues and perhaps develop some of the ideas that other speakers have mentioned here this morning.